The minutes, I'm not sure if people had a chance to check those out. They looked okay to you all?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they look fine.
Yeah, and then, like I said, it's a lot of housekeeping tonight. I did circulate, as hopefully you saw, a draft meeting schedule for discussion purposes. You know, as we talked about at our last meeting, moving to quarterly, I didn't know, we talked about starting in January, but as I thought about it, you know, if we start in February, that times us sort of have our normal, you know, July break, and it just sort of seemed to flow better, but it's entirely up to you all as to what you think makes the most sense.
I think that makes sense.
And again, we can always schedule as needed special meetings. That's no problem at all. It's just what we want to officially get on the calendar.
Can I just get some clarification? I had connection problems the last meeting. Why are we moving to not having monthly meetings?
I can take it. Yeah, so we talked about sort of the project-based nature of not only what the, you know, what the IT departments do, but what your all work is pretty driven by projects. So we felt that it was more appropriate to sort of officially have quarterly meetings on the books, and then based on, you know, the needs of the department, we would schedule special meetings or, you know, work group meetings to work on projects as needed, because we felt that monthly was probably too frequent, and we talked about every other month, and then we ultimately landed on quarterly.
Can I get a clarification on who we are? Can I get a clarification on who we are? What's we? When you use the word we, is that the administration at the employees at town hall, or are you referring to the members of the task force? Meaning
who decided on the quarterly?
Yeah, where was that generated from?
We, myself, Evan, Wendy as liaison to Board of Selectmen, Rick, we all met and talked about strategies for the next term, and we proposed as needed meetings, not even quarterly. And then the discussion, and I'm sorry, I thought you were part of the discussion at the last meeting.
No, I said I had connection issues. If anybody was paying attention, you'd see I was coming in and out nonstop, and I was putting in messages that I had connection issues. So I pretty much missed the whole thing, even though I was sort of there in and out. I effectively missed the whole meeting, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, we had a pretty long discussion about it at the last meeting.
Yeah. Oh, but what I'm confused about, though, is if we work for the Board of Selectmen, shouldn't this be put in front of the entire Board of Selectmen to change the terms of the technology task force?
I mean, our rules of procedure say we meet, you know, a year ago we were meeting monthly, so we said generally monthly, but at the needs of the task force. So it's not necessarily something procedure-wise that needs to go to the full Board of Selectmen. If they have something they want us working on that requires us to meet more frequently, we can certainly do that. But that's definitely not something they need to take action on.
Well, maybe you can clarify what's the quote unquote, I guess, harm or issue of scheduling a meeting monthly, and then maybe if there's nothing on the agenda, canceling it.
I mean, there's definitely some administrative overhead for that requirement, but you know, and I don't disagree with what you're thinking of, where you're headed there, Liz. You know, and again, I still struggle with, are we genuinely a project-based group, right? Or should there be other things that we should be looking at when Rick doesn't need us, right? And I don't know what that stuff is. It could be anything, right? We were tasked by the Board of Selectmen to assist the town with, you know, oversight is not the right word, but supporting the town in their technology needs. And you know, that has taken the shape of projects where we helped with the town website, and we've done some ad hoc product projects and stuff that the Board of Selectmen has assigned to us, right? But the guidance from the Board of Selectmen is pretty broad. So should we be looking at what we should be doing, and then obviously supporting Rick when he asks for help. That's where I'm, and if we start spacing out the meetings, we will just get more and more disconnected from what this potentially could be, right? And again, my vision is more along the lines of, are we as geeky a town as other towns around us, right? And other towns in the country or in the globe, and what does that even mean, right? Geeky town.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as, to bounce ideas off of the IT task force, and that's what we've done in the past, and we've pretty much done that from the beginning. Where we are now in the whole the IT strategy piece are just projects that have already come up in front, or projects that really don't need to be coming up in front of an advisory committee at this point. Will there be some in the future? I'm not sure. Right now, we're going through a whole Microsoft update. We're going through some Barracuda cloud-based stuff that really doesn't pertain to the advisory committee. But like Mike says, I mean, there's things that are going to be coming down the pike where we still need some policy guidelines on a bunch of stuff. We're going through right now a cybersecurity questionnaire, and a lot of it that we are informally understood or informally exist, but these are policies that are going to have to be drawn. And that's where I see value in the task force, just like we did with a couple of policies we already have through here. So,
and I would say that if we were to continue down the policy path, we would divide and conquer rather than try to tackle them one at a time, because when we were doing it one at a time, we just we were not arguing, but commenting on where the period belonged and what words belonged in there, and I think that we can do that in a much more efficient fashion to be able to work on some of that stuff. And that way we could do the whole quarterly meeting thing, but have work happening in between. Again, my whole thing with this is action, right? I want to be doing something, and maybe my hands are getting dirty. Maybe it's policy, maybe it's just guiding and or big picture dreaming type stuff. But I don't want to be sitting around waiting for maybe being needed, right? There's an opportunity that we have here to do some neat stuff, and that might just be spitballing, right? As to what we could or should be looking at.
I'm wondering if we're not missing what the challenges are for the town IT departments in the coming year. And I think we are. I think we're waiting to be told on a kind of a detail level when there's a need. And obviously, if we're only meeting quarterly, that's going to put Rick and others at a bit of a disadvantage unless they can pull us together in between. But it would be great to know, just based on current plans or current looking into the future, from a business and from an IT perspective, what the drivers are going to be, what the challenges are going to be. And then maybe we can help to pick the kinds of things that we should be involved in and get an early start on it. From my perspective, that's what I'm missing. I don't know what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that's coming right now in every town is really the whole cybersecurity aspect of it. and within that scope, there's a lot of documentations, policies that have to be driven, some internally, but it's something that, as a whole, as an advisory committee, that could provide input on how to attack that. There are some things that we can't do, such as a security assessment. Some of that information is confidential, so can't be, talked about. But there are some areas within cybersecurity that we can talk about. But I see that as a big driver for the next, 2-3 years. And every town is getting squashed by it.
Yeah. I think a lot of businesses are too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And more that we see is that, like, I just started, it's probably going to take about 4 days to finish this, CIS security questionnaire. But when we get the results back, I mean, that's something we digest and go through it. And some of that, I mean, I think we could address as a committee.
And Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong. We could use an executive session to cover anything that was potentially sensitive data, right?
Yes, you could.
Yeah.
Like you did with the network storage.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do have a vehicle, Rick, to where we can have a discussion even in a format like this, where it's under a veil for you to be able to speak freely.
Yeah.
So it's up to you guys. You had voted at the last meeting to go to quarterly, so that's why the calendar is presenting that way. But again, it's up to you.
Sorry, Melissa, and I know we definitely did cover that to a pretty good extent at the last meeting, but Liz didn't really get a chance to voice, even understand what we were talking about, and or comment and voice her opinions on it. And I waffled all around on it the whole time, and I still am, right? And I'm waffling on trying to figure out what our role really is, right? And I go back to the original guidance from the Board of Selectmen and our own mission, and it gives us a lot of latitude to do not what we want, but we could certainly be talking about whatever we want. It's not like we were tasked with just being a support apparatus, if you will.
I just think we don't meet that often as it is. Like the summer, we don't meet, and it's going to like 3 or 4 years it'll effectively be. I just think, why do we even really exist? It just seems really like a real strip down of it as we lose any momentum in between. I'm just not, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand really why we're going in that direction. Is there any way to have can we have a board, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a subcommittee that would meet in between so other people don't have to be here, maybe who don't need to be here? Is there some way to keep the momentum going and in between if we go to those kind of meetings?
Yeah, usually we form subgroups when there's a specific project or something that 3 or 4 members are working on. So definitely, as we talked about that too, like as needed, we would form subgroups to do work in between the meetings, but there would need to be something specific to work on. We could easily schedule those in between.
So I'm not opposed to, especially given that there's actually nothing for us to be working on in this moment, moving to a new format. We can always change at any point, right? We can try it for 3 months and go, this doesn't work for us, right? And so we can adjust it. We would just have to renotice and make an adjustment to the calendar, which, we can do at any time. So like I said, especially given at this point, we don't have anything on the books, and we've just been, canceling meeting after canceling meeting, which is just Melissa spending a bunch of time posting notices and then posting new notices of cancellations, right? Which is a waste of precious time. That being said, I would love to, to Bill's point, right, maybe there is a way to kind of get a 30,000 view look at what's coming down the pike, right? Rick shared some of that with us already, but maybe there's a 30,000 foot view. And Rick, I'm not trying to get back to where we were years ago, where you were literally, updating us on, how many printer calls you were getting and things of that nature. That's not what I'm looking for. But to Bill's point, maybe we can kind of read the tea leaves based on what your priorities are, Rick. And maybe there is an opportunity for us to provide some guidance and look down the road a little bit and do some homework. And, with 3 months, we can task everybody with, should we be looking at something else, right? Have everybody come to the table with something.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Because the next 3 months, I'm pretty much doing groundwork, and I'd be taking up your time for 3 meetings in a row, and there was nothing there, and would be worth the conversation at that point, and knowing about what we're doing with Microsoft, what we're doing with Barracuda Cloud, setting parameters. I mean, that's pretty much where we're heading right now, full steam.
Is Evan on the call? I don't think he is, right?
No, I don't see him.
Okay. Yeah, I want to be clear. I'm not looking for a hill to die on here. I think I have experience. That funny? Yeah. Well, I have experience on other town committees where you start not meeting as often and they pretty much die. I really have that personal experience. It's not the same committee as this, but that just kind of that's kind of where I'm coming from. I just wanted to give that perspective.
Yeah, and Evan can actually provide some insight into that, because he was on the first Town Technology Task Force group, which was formed, did whatever they did for a period of time, and then disbanded, right? So he might be able to provide some insight as to, maybe they did this, right, Liz, to your point, right? Maybe they shifted the schedule, and then all of a sudden it just, the wheels fell off the bus. And if I remember correctly, Evan was not in the meeting last time. He was unavailable last time.
Yeah, I think Evan was in the meeting.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Clearly don't trust my memory.
Yeah, I'm sorry I had all the connection issues, but he's the point person for the task force who was in the original meeting with Wendy and the admin and everybody, right? And I just, did he have a strong opinion that they could get me up to speed on?
I don't even remember being in the meeting, so
Yeah.
I think by the time we got done meeting, we were all kind of without a specific plan on something to really address in the short term. We kind of fell into, okay, let's set the agenda where we'll meet at least quarterly and go from there every 3 months. So I'm fine meeting every month. I'm fine every 2 months. I'm also fine every 3 months. What I'm not fine with, I think, is us taking up Rick and others' time if there's nothing to focus on. And part of our job, I think, would be to help find those things to focus on, or agree on those things to focus on, if nothing else. Like, we were talking about cyber. I think that's huge. I think it's huge for the town. I think it's huge for individuals. I think it's one of those areas where having a position, I think, is going to be really important in moving forward on it. But if we're not ready to tackle that yet, I don't think we should be just, spending an hour every month or two until we're ready.
That's fair.
So I don't know if we answered the question, Liz, but I was in the meeting. I don't think I was too vocal because I would be fine with monthly or quarterly. I was really trying to listen to what the need was. And it seemed like we all ended up, Evan included, agreeing that we would go with quarterly, at least as we looked at the year ending and the new year beginning.
Okay, and fair enough. And potentially you could change it at the next meeting is what everybody's saying, right?
I think so. Yeah.
If it's not a huge procedure, administrative procedure, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
And I agree with you, Liz. I think going to quarterly does have that opportunity where out of sight, not easy to get a hold of. Another step to get things scheduled might be an issue. So, I think that's where we have to kind of determine, do we have the need to meet monthly? And just to be close at hand, touching base.
So Melissa, I think I'm hearing that, we're, Liz, unless you're, vehemently opposed, I think what is proposed for next year stands for now. And, we have one more meeting to take a look at us and what potentially the next, set of meetings how they're going to take shape. But there's definitely,
I think that's fair. As long as, it looks like it could be changed. So, happy to move on. Thanks for putting up with me.
You're not dying on any hills, by the way. You're not allowed.
There are plenty for me, but not this one.
I gotta remember that one.
All right. So what's
For the formal schedule, did we think we wanted to start with the February, May, August, November, or did you want to do the January, April, July, October for the official regular meeting schedule?
I think what you proposed, like you said, it seems to fit with some of the other stuff that's going on. So that works for me.
Which one are we leaning towards, the January or the February start? I think there was an offering of either.
Yeah, either one. I mean, the only reason I was leaning towards February was because that sort of naturally skipped our, we normally don't meet in the summers anyways. And then that way you've got a couple in this, late winter, spring, then late summer, fall. So
you think the February start would work better?
That would work better for me.
Okay.
What's on my plate. We got a law enforcement thing going on too, and that's going to probably start within a month. So, and that's, then we got vacations and holidays and everything else. So
I just want to point out that if we do that one, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but I think we're going to probably cancel August. That means we go from May to November. We go 6 months without a meeting. Of course, we can call one, but as far as the calendar goes and what history tells us, we don't meet in July and August, right?
Right.
yeah,
But both of those opportunities arise with either, right? We've got July meeting one, August in the other.
Yeah, but the gap is a little smaller, isn't it? Maybe. Oh, no, it's still 6 months. You're right. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. All right.
In August, Rick and Jason are, winding up to get ready for, the next crazy season. So, the August one sometimes is a fun one.
Okay. So do we vote? How do we?
I have to jump off. I have a appointment right now. So I just want to let you guys know.
Okay.
Again, my opinion is I'm fine with it quarterly and whatever works better, whether starting in January or February.
thanks, John.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.
Good night, John. Thank you. I think February one works fine. And sorry, that was the only one I was looking at. So I didn't even realize there was the two. I missed that.
I'm good with that as well.
Okay, we can do it by consensus. You don't have to take a formal vote. I will get that filed. And as Mike said, we do have a regular meeting on the books for a month from now. So in terms of the next agenda item, if you want to keep that December meeting and do the chair and vice chair selections, then I don't know if we our current chair isn't on the call, so I don't know if we want to take action on that without him. And our vice chair currently is Paul, just so you know. And we got some time if we want to wait, keep that meeting in December and do it then. It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like turnout tonight is pretty soft. Actually, one of our softer turnouts. Usually, we're fairly well attended. So maybe it's best to table that till the next meeting.
Easy enough. We can do that. The next item, actually, Evan had asked me to put on. It looks like for the next term, so your terms expire in December, and then the reappointments will go before the Board of Selectmen, most likely in December. It looks like we will have a total of 3 vacancies. So I went back and looked. We did post the vacancies that we had at the time in January of 2020, and then COVID happened, and our recruitment just sort of took a back seat. But I revisited that list, and we did have about 9 applications. I am expecting one more. Someone who I'm not familiar with reached out, wondering how they could apply. So I think we'll probably have 10 applications. So what we can do is, if you're in agreement, we can revisit that list, reach out to those folks if they're still interested. These appointments go through the Personnel Subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen. So we can bring those to them and schedule the interviews. The chair would be involved, Mike, as you were in the past, and we go from there. So if for some reason none of those people are interested in serving still, we can post it again. But we do have a good list to work off of, so that's promising.
That is, yeah, and hopefully those folks are still here in town and they're still willing to jump in.
Do we have any skills or experience that we're looking for, or is it just whether or not there are people that want to participate?
It's a good question. I think both. I think, level of interest is important, but we don't have, for this committee, specific slots. For example, like with the Economic Development Commission, we have, someone with expertise in tourism, someone who's part of the business community, that sort of thing. We don't have specific slots for this group, but, in the past, I think there's just been sort of an effort to, diversify and make sure we have sort of different disciplines represented. And but if that's something you want to, throw out there for consideration, that's, definitely something we can include in the process. If there's something we think we're missing or.
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether or not, based on where the challenges are for the coming year or two, whether or not there's something from that we can derive some qualifications from, where we'll definitely need help. Or, where we'd be most beneficial to Rick and the teams.
Yeah, and we definitely have in the past, when I was helping with that, looking at folks, backgrounds and experience and trying to, find and fill holes, especially from a security perspective. That was the one that I'd always been looking for.
Yeah.
Right. And Liz, one of our more recent additions, and Paul, with Liz has a very strong background in social media and stuff like that, which was, the communications piece was a big hole for us.
Yeah.
So, we've definitely, and Paul brings, the connection to the fire department and all the fun stuff that he's done for them. So yeah, we've definitely tried to look at the, awesome candidates who are offering their time and try to also fill some of the gaps that potentially exist within our group from a skills perspective.
And are we limited to the number of people that can sit in the group?
We definitely spiked out a size in our
Our mission?
Not in our mission, in our
The rules of procedure.
in the rules. Thank you. I could not find those words. The rules of
We settled
procedure.
on 9, so we'll have total of 9.
Okay,
slots.
great.
And we don't even have a quorum tonight to vote on anything anyway.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 of us.
Yeah, not at the moment.
Yep. So
So that's where we're at, and then we can. I would expect us to have more of an update on the recruitment process. Even in December, I would think we would hopefully have some dates scheduled for interviews, that kind of thing. So we can plan to, provide an update on that, as well as do the chair and vice chair at the next December. It'll be quick, but
Are we going to look at the applications, or do you narrow it down, Melissa?
we typically have the chair and the personnel subcommittee handle that process. So it's, with a volunteer board, it's good to kind of, cast a wide net, and we're not gonna, kick anybody out unless they're not, actually a resident or something obvious like that. But
I have another question on a different thing. Just reminded me about social media. Was the last meeting and the meeting before, we were talking about the social media policy needing to be reviewed again soon? Was that something we're supposed to be starting on?
we had done that. I can go back and look at the minutes, but we didn't have any substantive changes, or the group didn't propose anything substantive on that one, because that one's fairly new.
Was that the last meeting?
No, that was.
Okay. I thought we were saying it had been 3 years since we did it. But you looked at it and didn't need to change it? Is that what?
The group looked at it.
Okay. I can't believe I missed that if it wasn't the last meeting, but it's okay. Never mind. I don't mean to hold everybody up.
And that one was done March 2019. And we reviewed it. We reviewed it in May, back in May, at your May 3rd meeting.
Okay. Sorry, I thought it came up more recently.
Anything else for tonight?
I have one quick question. I know there was some discussion about SIP, and I was wondering if anything is being done on that front, or it was just for information that we were looking.
All you, Rick.
What was that, Bill? Sorry.
It was the SIP, SIP.
So the only SIP that we're doing, we just signed an agreement with Frontier for our phone system. And that's what we're doing only with SIP. The rest of it is we pretty much have our own fiber.
Right.
So
are we moving the phone system to that that platform?
yeah, to Frontier's SIP. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
That happened.
Yeah. Is that a fairly good savings, or is it oversight that we were looking for?
Good question. I mean, they were going back and forth, and then I played devil's advocate with them, but I'm just trying to think on how much that was. Can you hang on 1 second? Let me get that document.
Yeah, Rick, I think there was a savings. It wasn't huge, but it was something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't recall the magnitude, but
Let's see.
in my experience, when in the move from a more legacy platform to SIP, unless you had a really bad contract, the savings wasn't that
Right.
great, right? I mean, it was, single digit percentage type stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like you're cutting half out, right? I mean,
Right. You're really looking to reduce overhead.
Right. I think it was like 2 something a month. Because we were coming from a straight PRI to a SIP.
Okay.
And I think, what did they give us here?
And can you move again if you needed to?
Yeah,
And that's my fear factor with all of this is that you're going with a vendor and all of a sudden they start looking shaky to you or they go dark.
Well, the original in those discussions on it was there was another company that wanted to give us their SIP lines, which was the maker of our phone system, which is great. But, now you start talking about service levels and everything else, like, well, who are they? We're kind of familiar with Frontier and what they have.
Okay.
So we stayed with Frontier. It wasn't a huge, difference. So we decided to stay with the Papa and the Mama bear and go with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
My last question on that topic. How's the migration? Is it easy?
So, and that's what we're working on right now is trying to get 100%, hopefully 100% on that cutoff. And they say they've done it before. Well, for me, it's like, well, I have whole town operation, but most importantly, I have law enforcement sitting there and I can't afford an outage with them. So what we're trying to do is move blocks of DIDs one at a time or one block at a time, PD in town. So our last discussion was that, and when would be the appropriate time. And there's really no appropriate time for law enforcement. For town, we could figure it out. And, on a Friday, we're out at 1 o'clock. So, pull the plug after 1 o'clock and see what happens. But unfortunately, law enforcement's tricky. And so when they come back, and that should be this week, we'll get that going. Because it's supposed to be, as they say, seamless to plug right into our, on-prem PBX.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
And the fallback should be seamless as well, right? Where if it starts looking shaky when you go over, falling back should be easy.
That's where the discussion gets gray, right? Well, we've never had that problem, but so it's like, okay, what assurance do I have here?
Well, the good news is the PRI circuit's coming from Mobile or whoever
from Frontier
nowadays.
Frontier. Yeah.
And Frontier and the new SIP trunks are coming from Frontier. So at least you're not going from vendor to vendor because that's where the nightmares usually come from.
Yeah. And the question about non-destructive migration. You're not changing anything where we can't go back.
Yeah, even the portability of the DIDs. I mean, that's something that could be a nightmare for going from one vendor to the next, right? So if we jumped from Frontier to NEC on porting, I don't know about that. That's a task in itself.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Anything else? Thanks, everyone.